Hello there, everybody at Vinyl Community. There's a thread going on here right now at the VC about which our first CD were that we got. And a very interesting one, very nostalgic thread that would be interesting to actually give my answer to. CD, I have, of course, never stopped buying, as you have seen in my videos. I am the kind of person who couldn't care less which decade or year it is. As long as it's in physical format and it is a good one, I buy it, no matter how trendy it is. I never been interested in following certain trends, and that is also the case when it comes to CDs, because there are a certain story behind my first CD, which I didn't buy myself. I got it in Christmas present. I actually, here in Sweden, we were a bit late. We started to it started to be very common in people's home to get CDs, at least up here in Sundsvall, not until around the beginning of the 90s. That was when people were starting talking about getting rid of their vinyls and buying CDs because it was better quality on the sound and so on. I was very hesitating from the beginning. I was all-time pro vinyl because the vinyl at the time were much cheaper. I was a student back then, didn't have all that money, so I wanted the vinyls to be still there so I can buy vinyl singles for around $2 and so on. And even the full-length vinyl were cheaper than the CDs. And I didn't want the CD to take over because I felt like, how would I be able to buy CDs? How could I afford it? So I was very much against CD at the time. However, I also somewhere deep inside realized that it doesn't matter how much against it I am. Sooner or later I have to buy it. If I'm going to follow new music, which I wanted at the time, around 91, 92 we're talking. So a friend of mine, Otto, the one who taught me to love jazz, he was very much pro CD and always tried to convince me how great CD albums were. And I guess I said to him that as soon as later I realized that I must have a CD player also. So at the Christmas 1992, I all of a sudden got my very first CD record in Christmas present by him. He went into a store and bought this compilation, jazz compilation, from Verve, called Jazz Club Mainstream, and it is kind of a good compilation that I at first thought was okay, nothing more, nothing less. It has some great. I was so much into older jazz that I more or less focused on the ones that were older jazz, but today when I also listen to some jazz for newer dates, it is a good compilation. And he also had this little piece of note along with it where he said, "Here you have your first CD." I know that you don't have a CD player yet, so therefore I have copied it on a cassette. You can record that cassette over when you have a CD player. And he also draw a Santa Claus there. So I have this piece of paper still left after all these years in the CD because it was pretty funny. And yes, I think it took me, I think it was during the Easter in 1993 when I bought my first CD player at a store we had called On Off. A store that is electronic store that is no longer among us. It has shut down years ago. But this is my very first CD that I have had, and I got more positive. I used to say that it's kind of ironic how against CD I was because it was too expensive back in 1992. Today, the CD's prices are pretty much the same, and today I fight for the CD's survival because it is a physical format, and it's very ironical how things turns out to be. But I have no problem with this. It's good sound, and it is very much portable, that I really do like. So even though the prices are still insanely stupid, I enjoy CDs very, very much. Then of course it is very vulnerable, both when it comes to this CD cases and the CD are very much easier to scratch and harder to listen to than it is vinyl. If you have a scratch on vinyl, you can still listen to it. If you have a scratch on CDs, you can. It is very, very big risk to put it in a CD player. So it has its downs, it has its pluses. But I have a lot of CDs, as you have seen. I have no problem with it. I'm not going to ship them away in any kind just because it's 2019. So that is my answer to this thread. This is my very first CD that I got. So until next time, take care everybody. So long.